Welcome back to the Game Grip podcast. How are we doing, Merlin?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. Obviously, US Open is going on at the moment, but we are going to head it off with another debate today. Something that's being trialled actually during the US Open is this off-court. Well, I thought it was called on-court, but it's called off-court coaching.
Hmm.
Essentially, where players can have I think it's not. It doesn't just have to be one coach. From what I've seen today, it can be like multiple coaches.
As long as
Um,
they're sitting in the box.
Yeah, literally, as long as they're sat in a designated area, they're allowed to they're allowed to communicate with players, but only in supposedly short phrases, not like long discussions or anything. So they're allowed to communicate with the players when they're at the same end, um, to try and enhance the fan experience. That's kind of what they said it is. Um, and yeah, we're kind of going to talk about our opinions on this. Obviously, everyone's got their own opinion. Put yours in the comments as well, like whatever you think about this. But yeah, I'll just lead it into you, and you can start it off. Like, what do you think about this whole trial period of off-court coaching? They say it's to try and enhance like fan experience or intrigue in the game. I don't know if you see it as a positive thing. Is it fair? What do you think about it?
It's not the first time this has come up as a debate, and it's only sort of recently that we've gone down the route of looking at trialing this sort of thing, especially as a wider tennis community. I mean, personal preferences aside, it is a lot wider than just sort of certain matches where you've got someone in your box and you're at the same end where you can give sort of like short, you know, hit deeper or, hit to his backhand or, various sorts of things. And, maybe it will bring in the idea of like people talking about plays beforehand and working out what sort of plays work at certain times. I quite like that in terms of what it could offer fans, changing momentum, sort of more volatility to a match potentially. Um, but I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the likes of sort of headphone based off court coaching because there is the idea as well that players, when they sit down in their chair at change of ends and all that sort of stuff, they'd be able to get headphones and the coach would be able to talk into that, or they'd be able to get off court coaching that way. Um, I don't know. Maybe if we're able to hear that feed at the same time, then that's good. But at the same time, to that, is it really going to be that interesting? I think tennis is a complicated enough sport as it is for a lot of people to watch. I don't know if we need another element, such as sort of, complex tennis jargon being introduced in between. So, yeah, I've got a very mixed view on this. I'll be interested to see where the debate takes my preference. But yeah, I'm a little open.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because they were talking about it today, and they were saying, wouldn't it be better? I don't know if you're doing it to enhance fan experience or whatever. Wouldn't it be better to just like mic up one of the coaches and have like, I don't know, someone, not even the player, but like someone else talking to them, I don't know, after a set or
Mm,
something about like what their thoughts are on it, rather than some kind of brief exchange between the player and the coach, which they say it really blooming quickly as well, and it depends what language it's in as well, like whether you can understand it. Would it not be better to just, yeah, mic them up and like talk to them like they've done in like loads of other sports? I know in cricket and stuff, they
yeah.
even sometimes they like have a player mic'd up while they're on the field or whatever, and they start talking to them then. Would that not be better? My general opinion on it is I don't see it being beneficial really. Like if it's for fans at least in the current format that it's in. Um, I think it's almost like a way of getting out of having to police coaches from like saying stuff to players. Really, it's like a middle
Yeah.
ground that they're trying to get there, and I don't buy it.
My issue here is, and this is going to come across really harsh the way I talk about this. The players that this will benefit are probably the most controversial and petulant players on the tour. The ones that take sort of 10-minute bathroom breaks between sets
Oh
because
yeah,
they
that
feel
one.
like that's going to change the momentum and stuff like that. So we can dip into these controversies and seeing, why they may have introduced this policy. They're like, well, if it's happening so much, then maybe we need to make it plausible. But to be quite honest, I still go back to the idea that tennis is a mental game as much as it is a physical game. when these people are out there on the court, everything is them. It's all about those two players, or if it's doubles, those four players. It's all about that moment. Who has got the goods? Who has got the brain to work this out and to keep their temper and to hold? Like I say, for me, that's a big part of tennis. That's why it's one of the hardest sports because you're balancing so many different things all at once. Um, and to sort of introduce what could effectively be the ability to lean on a coach during that time, like to me, it's just not tennis. So, yeah, dare I say it, actually, I say maybe where this argument will take me. I think I already know.
Yeah, well, yeah. The obvious argument is the fairness one, isn't it? What
Yeah,
because like a lot, like Kyrgios brought this up months ago when they were talking about it. It's like, well, what about lower ranked players who don't have access to the level of coaching, the
exactly.
coaches that the higher level players have? They've already got an advantage as it is. So surely that's just widening that disadvantage for them. And yeah, as you said, well, it's an individual sport, isn't it? Your whole point is you're supposed to try and work it out on the court yourself. That's the whole
Yeah,
point. Or with your doubles partner if you're playing doubles. So yeah, again, like I said, I think it's just a way of getting out of like policing some of the stuff that's already gone on. Like you were mentioning with your favourite player, Sisyphus being one of the prime culprits of that. It's
mm.
yeah, like fans are just not. I don't think they're going to buy into it. I don't actually know how they're going to assess whether it's a success as well. Like, are they just going to like
I was wondering this.
survey fans? Like, what? How does that work? I don't know what you think about that.
They talk about it being trialed to see if it works. Well, all they're going to see is they have to give out fewer penalties for off-court coaching. Clearly, like I don't really understand either, and that's part of what bothers me about this as well. It does feel like a little bit of a we're trialing it, we'll see how it goes. Just sort of feels like a little bit of a cop out because they know that people aren't going to widely accept it if they just change the rules. Whereas if they just sort of introduce it and people get sort of used to it, then maybe maybe we'll all tolerate it as fans. It's much like in football with VAR, like people constantly hate that. But we're just used to it now. Like we have to deal with the controversies all the time because it's just part of it. That doesn't necessarily mean it should be. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of questions that still remain over whether we should have off-court coaching in that sense. And I don't really think it's a sport at all. There are various times when maybe it does. So a good time for this sort of thing would be maybe Davis Cup or ATP Cup, that sort of thing. Where it's a team event where you're working. I'd like to see Nadal talking to Murray or one of the younger like folks on the Team Europe and stuff like that. You'd like to see that interaction. That is fan oriented. That is good for tennis. I don't want to see Stefan Edberg putting in his opinion on a match that he wouldn't have had a chance playing in my personal opinion. Obviously, like between ages, players have progressed infinitely. So again, these coaches help these players get to a much greater level and a much better position. But I think that that's their job. That's where the job ends. As soon as they step out onto the court, the coach is there to watch. They all need to take a leaf out of Ivan Lendl's book and just sit there with sunglasses and shut up.
Yeah, that's a good point you make because it does seem a bit like an initiative for a team sport. Like it could work
Yeah,
for a team sport, or in a team format, like you said, with like Davis Cup, because we've already seen that before, where that is like that adds to the whole event. The entertainment is that
yeah,
kind of
absolutely,
like
absolutely.
player or coach player interaction. Whereas with tennis, it's never been part of it anyway. Like that's all that goes on in the training and all that stuff,
Yeah,
and doesn't really. There's no real room for it, I guess. In other than like what we said before, where you could like mic up a coach and then talk to him at like the end of a set or something about what he thinks, and do that in like one language, like English or something, so that everyone can understand it. But even then, it might be a bit possibly too complicated as well, like you say, because it's quite a complicated sport. I
this is
think
it.
just enforce the rules properly, like where there's no
Yeah,
off court coaching, where it's like, yeah, you can support them, you can clap them, you can say come on or whatever the hell it is, but that's where it ends. Like like the mental support is there. That's fine, but not in the tactical sense or whatever. Just let the players get on with it. That's kind of that's the whole point of the sport. That's why I quite enjoy it, because when you're in a match, you're in that like as well as physical, you're in that like mental tactical battle with your opponent or your opponents in doubles, and it's like it's like a game of chess almost. Can you kind of figure out like what they're trying to do, and how do you like enhance your strengths and minimize the weaknesses, that kind of thing.
Well, I was just going to come on to that. I'd compare it to chess in the sense that you wouldn't let someone else come in and help you try and win a chess game, would you? That would be completely against the point of it. Yeah, same here. But no, it's that same point of view. Like, it is a sport. It's a physical sport, but that mental element of it deserves recognition as a chief element of the sport, rather than just being something that needs coaching and needs help with all of that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that this trial doesn't have a place in tennis, but in terms of standard sort of WTA, ATP Tour matches on, just generic throughout the year and at Grand Slams, in my opinion, it has no place. And I think a lot of tennis fans would probably say the same.
Yeah, well, if they do end up surveying fans, or whatever it is that they do to figure out whether it's a success or not, because I don't really know how else you would do it. Like, there's another way of getting insight on it. Oh, the high-ranked players love it. Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, of course they do, because they can pay for it.
So, yeah, well, I think we're both going to have the same conclusion with this, in that we don't really think it has a place. But, again, like, it's good. In a way, it's good they're trialing something. It's just, it's sort of in the wrong area, I guess. If they were to, like we said, trial, I don't know, talking to a coach at an end of a set or something, give that a go, see if that adds anything, then that's a potential avenue to go down. But other than that, I just, don't see the point.
The one thing I will say about this that might be a benefit is that at least the tennis community looks like it's listened to something and then gone, okay, well, let's try something to change that or improve that. Again, as we're criticising it entirely in a direction that they've gone, it is nice to think that potentially the possibility for change, regardless of how controversial, is possible in the future. The likes of umpiring and, sort of the disgraceful environment that exists around that in tennis, that's something that needs to change. And also the structure around, sort of ranking points, and the structure around sort of prize money and everything. All of these things, they're controversial things that people are always going to probably have an issue with. And we're hoping that obviously there's someone out there bold enough to go, look, here's a potential solution. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, you're right. The good thing is that they're looking at ways of making tennis more appealing or accessible, or just interesting to a wider audience. And like another thing we've seen in the US Open is, and this is something we talked about before, is the whole automated line calling thing. Like they've taken that on board, and to me that's something that's been a positive, because it's cut out like all the crap with like players arguing with umpires, or like the Hawkeye thing, which it didn't really add that much, to be honest. I'd rather just get on with the flow of the game, that sort of thing. They're bringing like technology in, which is a positive in a lot of cases. So at least they are trying to listen to outside opinions and stuff, and trying to like change things. It's just in this case maybe it's slightly in the wrong place.
That's the only thing I used to like about sort of controversial line calls is, if it's a big match, care. But if it's not a big match and there's no sort of tight contest, it's just pointless. You're just sitting there going, oh, it was out, okay. Whereas, if it's a tight match and it's like the final sort of like game and points and stuff like that, and the serve's out and you're like, oh my God, then fair enough, it adds value. But, is that worth the rest of it?
Could do with some of these automated line calling and some of these like graded tournaments in the UK. Some of the calling that we see. Oh my God.
This is where Europe's got it right. More clay courts. You don't need any automated line calling because you can see the bounce.
Yeah, unless you confuse it with another ball. But
some players are very good at that.
Anyway, yeah, let us know your thoughts on this, whether you think it's a good thing or whatever, and whether there's other things you want to see trialed at least, seeing as we now, like, this is something that is a format they're going to use, perhaps, like trialing different things as well. Let us know in the comments what you think about that. And yeah, at least it's good that they're listening to these things. And yeah, if you have enjoyed it, obviously give it a follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, like it, share it around, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time for what will probably be a US Open kind of roundup or reaction. See what happens there.